Right, everybody. Good morning and welcome to the public presentation of survey findings on Nigerians' economy, living condition, fuel subsidy, and the overall direction of the country. It is an Afrobarometer R10 survey result, and today we are going to be doing a public presentation of the survey findings. Yesterday, we had a confidential briefing with government stakeholders as part of the protocols for commencing the Afrobarometer R10 dissemination. We had a confidential briefing here with government officials. So this officially marks the start of this dissemination, as it were. So we want to thank everybody for being here today. This is one of the very many disseminations that we're going to be having in the course of this round 10 events. And they cut across various sectors, from the economy to health to rights to democracy, environment, climate change, all of it. And within the course of the year, we're going to be calling on you to have a conversation with us on these very salient issues that bother us as a people. So again, I want to say thank you for taking out time off your very, very busy schedules to be here. We're hoping that more people will join us as we continue, but we cannot wait. We have to go on. So we are NOI Polls. NOI Polls is the national partner for Afrobarometer in Nigeria. We're going to have Mami come up later to talk briefly about Afrobarometer and what they do across the African continent. We are NOI Polls. We are a polling and research organization. We poll across sectors, multi-sectoral, and across Nigeria and parts of West Africa. So if you need polling services, if we need to gauge the perception of Nigerians as regards any issue, please let us know. We are also open to partnerships and collaborations to work with you to give Nigerians a voice and hear what Nigerians are saying. Because sometimes you think you know what Nigerians think and what Nigerians want, but except a perception poll or a survey is conducted, you probably might not exactly know what people want or how people want to, relate, what people want to do. So today we're going to be looking, like I said, at the highlights of the findings of the public perception survey conducted in Nigeria, and it is going to focus on the state of the economy. It's going to focus on living conditions, fuel subsidy, and also overall direction of the country. This is actually a topic that affects all of us. We are at a point in Nigeria where there is, rising cost of living. The fuel subsidy has actually thrown us in various directions, and people are sometimes confused. We see a lot of policy shifts here and there, and Nigerians to some extent might feel disenchanted. We are sometimes we're not sure what we're supposed to be doing or how we're supposed to be reacting, and sometimes we are not even permitted to react. So we're going to have all those conversations here today, and that will be after we're done with the public presentation of the survey findings. And we also want to welcome all those who are watching us virtually and who are also joining us virtually. I also want to include that our CEO, Dr. Chike Wambo, is also joining us virtually. He unfortunately cannot be here today as he's out of the country, but he's with us and he sends his regards to all of us. So we'll continue this with a brief presentation that will be from. So we're going to have a brief presentation from the Afrobarometer team from Ghana, and Mame will be here to run us through what the Afrobarometer is doing across the African continent. And when we're done with that, we will move on. I am Nelly Ohuche. I'm the head of corporate communications NOI Polls, and we have with us a few NOI Polls team. We have the head of social research, Raphael Mbebu, at the back. We also have the head of market research, Mr. Femi Taiwo. He's also at the back, and we have a few other people that will be joining us too. So I hand over to Mame from all the way from Ghana. Choli?
Good morning. So good to see you. Like Nelly said, my name is Mami Kia Amwachu, and I'm joining you from Ghana. I'm the Afrobarometer Communications Coordinator for Anglophone West and North Africa. And it's good to see some familiar faces. I think at this point I should just jump back to Nigeria because I've been here a couple of times. Yeah. Um, but so for those of you who came early, we're showing you a video of our history of Afrobarometer. And essentially, way back in the 1990s, our three co-founders met at a conference. And at this conference, there were some people who were discussing what they thought Africans wanted, what they presumed that Africans thought was important for them. And so our co-founders sat back and said, no, we need to hear from Africans what they really think they want, what they say is important, and not what some people presume, right? So that's what gave birth to Afrobarometer. And for the past 25 years, just last year, we turned 25 years, and we're very proud of that. We've been churning out high quality data on what Africans think, right? Nigeria, I'm very happy to announce, is one of the 12 countries we started with in 1999, where we conducted the first Afrobarometer survey in Africa. And so there were 12 countries, and fast forward to now, we've done the survey in about 42 African countries. So when you're really looking to what Africans are thinking, you should turn to Afrobarometer because we cover 3/4 of the country. And the idea is for us to go to as many countries as we can, right? And in terms of what our data has been doing, like I said, it gives you a broad sense of what Africans are thinking on so many topics: climate change, gender, even economic conditions, democracy, governance, which is our flagship topics. But over the years too, I think as part of our milestones, we've been labeled as the gold standard of surveys in Africa. And it's one label we're very, very proud of. It's come because of the hard work, but also because of the rigorous methods we use in collecting our data. In all these African countries that were in last round 9, for instance, we conducted a survey in 39 African countries. And in round 10, we're still conducting, we'll end in June, and we're looking to do between 40 to 42 African countries. But also other global indexes use our data to inform these indexes they come out with. So for instance, the Mo Ibrahim Index of African Governance, they rely on Afrobarometer data. That should tell you the extent to which our data is used. The Economist Intelligence also use our data. UNDP uses our data, and the World Bank as well. So just be rest assured that whatever we're sharing with you this morning and the various press releases and other dissemination events that we'll be doing, NOI Post will be doing, is of accuracy, and this really what Nigerians are thinking or saying. So thank you for honoring our invitation, and let's just go straight into it.
All right, thank you, Mame, for that brief introduction of Afrobarometer and their activities across Africa. All right, so we're going to go straight into the conversation. We'll go straight into the conversation, but I also want to recognize all those who are here. So we have Ms. Oladipo Funke. She is the former Director of Women Development from the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs. She now runs Gender and Women Advancement Initiative in Abuja. She's actually the CEO. You're welcome, madam. We have our very own, very own Barrister Frank Tete. He is this Executive Director of Citizens Advocacy for Social and Economic Rights, CASA. So we have the representatives from Yaga Africa. Representatives from Yaga Africa. We have representatives from the Center for Social Justice. We also have representatives from, there's actually a very long list, and I just want to say, I mean, if we continue, probably we don't end. We have the budget people here. Great, fantastic. So the house is getting fuller, and as they come in, we keep recognizing everyone. And like I said, this is a conversation that we must have as a people, because it borders on our living condition, it borders on issues that are very critical that we must talk about. How does the fuel subsidy issue affect us? How does what is our living condition like today? Is it better than it was a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago? You know, how are we today? I mean, looking at the optics, how do we look at ourselves? How do we see ourselves? How is the economy generally looking like for us? Do we say that we're doing well? Are we doing badly? You know, those are the conversations we are going to be having today, and they're going to be based off of, you know, the data findings. I would want us to look at the data findings, then interrogate the data findings. That's what we're going to be doing in the next few minutes. So I will call on the head of social research, Raphael Umbegu, to do the presentation of the Round 10 survey on looking at the overall direction of the country and the economy of the country, actually. All right, so Raphael, take over from here.
Good morning, everyone. Please permit me to stand on the existing protocols. My name is Raphael Umbegu. I'm the head of social research here at NY Post. I want to join the by apologizing once again for the time late. It's not in our usual character to start events like this late. We had invited as many as we can, but for one reason or the other, people couldn't get here before we started. We just have to go live because there are many who are waiting quite early, and we can't keep them waiting. So thank you so much for making our time to participate in this first dissemination event for Afrobarometer Round 10 survey, where we present to you views on the state of the economy and fuel subsidy, highlights from Afrobarometer Round 10 survey conducted between June and July 2024. A little bit about Afrobarometer for those of us who didn't get that when my colleague from Ghana was presenting. NY Post is the national partner of Afrobarometer in Nigeria, responsible for the conduct and dissemination of all Afrobarometer surveys in Nigeria. And we've been doing this for many years. And as part of our activities, we can't just go back, we can't just go every corner of the country collecting people's opinion on issues that concern them without getting people to see the findings from those opinion the Nigerians have given. So, at a glance, on the direction of the country, we found that more than 9 in 10 Nigerians say the country is going in the wrong direction. A marginal increase from what we got in 2022. On economic condition of the country, large majorities of citizens describe the country's economic condition and their personal living condition as fairly bad or very bad. On the issue of fuel subsidies, an overwhelming majority of Nigerians disapprove of government decision to remove fuel subsidies. Again, about Afrobarometer, just to reiterate what my colleague has said, this is something we've been doing over the years, and the goal is to give Africans and African citizens voice on issues that concern them. Different surveys have been conducted in Nigeria. As a matter of fact, this is the 10th round of survey conducted in Nigeria, and interestingly, Nigeria has been part of the survey since the survey started in 1989, and this is the round 9 survey. Around 10 survey. For around 10 survey, it was conducted between June and July 2024 across the 36 states of Nigeria and, of course, the city. Regarding the coverage, like I mentioned, if you see Nigerian map, you see that Nigeria was one of the countries that started the survey in 1999, and we've been very consistent in getting people's view down to around 10 survey, which representing some of the findings today. The countries with the ash color shows countries where survey has not been conducted, and like Mami mentioned earlier, Afrobarometer is making efforts to see if you can engage some of those countries. Although there are some limitations, some of the reasons why these countries have not been surveyed, there are some political climate in those countries, and that's, people don't have the opportunity to say their views through surveys. And we're making efforts to get to those countries in due time. About the methodology. Afrobarometer survey adopted a nationally representative survey of adult citizens. In Nigeria, we spoke to only adults. So what I mean is that if you're not an adult, if you're not a citizen of Nigeria, and if you don't live in the country, you are not part of the survey. Only citizens and residents of the country who are 18 years and above were surveyed. And then face-to-face interviews was conducted in the language of respondents' choice. The survey was designed in English language and was translated to 4 major local languages: Hausa, Igbo, Yoruba, and Pidgin, as well as English. So what that means is that we conducted interviews in 5 different languages in Nigeria. Of course, we know we have so many languages, but we couldn't have translated the questionnaires to all the languages we have. We tried to streamline it to these 5 different languages. Standard questionnaire allows comparison across countries and over time. Afrobarometer usually have one standard questionnaire. Questions that are asked in Nigeria are asked in Mozambique, are asked in Botswana, are asked in all the 2 countries where surveys are conducted. But countries are allowed to insert some what we call country-specific questions. In as much as Afrobarometer try to ask general questions across countries, so that it can be compared across countries. Countries are given the opportunity to insert each questions that are very unique to them, one of which we are going to present to you today about fuel subsidies. Then the sample size, we interviewed 1,600 Nigerians. Sample size of this nature yields country level results with a margin of error, of sampling error of plus or minus 2%, 2.5% points at 95% confidence level. What that means is that if this survey is conducted 100 times, you will get, using the same methodology, you will get same result 95 times. In terms of demographic distribution of survey, we interviewed 50% male, 50% female. It's a standard procedure for Afrobarometer that every survey there is equal distribution of gender, just to get people's view. And then in terms of urban distribution, we usually go through National Population Commission, the NPC, to draw the samples of mentioned areas where we visited. So we didn't just draw the sample, we visited NPC, they are the one that gave us locations to go to across the states we visited. And from the sampling, we got 40% of respondents from the urban area and 7% of respondents coming from the rural areas. There were some exclusions. This will not be NPC excluded some locations that are very difficult to enter, especially in the northeast, where the life of our investors will be at risk in the dare to enter the events. Those communities were excluded for another one within the same states. In terms of education, we don't have any breakdown for this. But this is what respondents say. They are not already at the point of at time of this survey. We've got 16% of the respondents say that they have no formal education, 18% have primary education, but 9% say they have secondary education, and 7% say they have post-secondary education. In terms of religion, again, we did not have a breakdown before we hit the field. This is what respondents say is their religion at the time of survey. 41% of the respondents who say they are Christians, and 8% who say they are Muslim. Only 1% say they are from other religions. Overall direction of the country and economic conditions. Here are the key findings. We found that more than 9 in 10 Nigerians, 93%, say the country is going in the wrong direction. This represents an increase of 4% points since from what we got in 2022, and 30% points since what we got from 2017 survey. Nearly 9 in 10 Nigerians, 88% say the country's economic condition is very bad or very bad. All the 30% increase from what we got in 2020. And the fourth, which is 74%, report poor personal living conditions. The increasing cost of living at 3% is the most frequently cited problem that Nigerians want the government to address, followed by crime and security at 1%, poverty and unemployment at 7% each, management of the economy and electricity at 5%. It is that things Nigerians feel the government should address immediately. Overall direction of the country. Like I said earlier, we ask Nigerians, would you say that the country is going in the right direction and going in the wrong direction? You see, majority of respondents, 93%, say the country is going in the wrong direction. And this response has been very consistent from what we got in 2017 when Nigeria reported, when 63% of respondents said the country is going in the wrong direction, down to 24%, when 2024, we are recording 93%. And those who say the country are going in the right direction, 26% say so. So this is an important area that we need to look at as we have the discussion today. Ask again in general, how would you describe the present economic condition of this country and their personal living condition? You see the red line and the purple line. Majority of respondents, 88%, say the country's economic condition is bad. And the personal living condition is also bad at 74%. So this shows that Nigerians are worried about the economic condition as well as the country's economic condition, the personal living condition, the country's economic condition. We asked, over the past year, how often, if ever, have you or anyone in your family gone without enough food to eat, enough clean water for their home use, medicine or medical treatment, enough way to cook their food or cash income? We found that majority of the respondents said they go out without cash income many times and always, or several times. If you see 49% and 31%, we give about 70% of respondents who say they go out always, many times, several times, without cash income. Again, that takes us back to personal living condition and what we say about country's economic condition. And then looking at food, majority of respondents, if you add in 7% and 1%, you give about 28% of respondents who say they go out without food many times, always, or several times. So that again takes us back to our initial finding about people's living condition. Nigerians generally say they go out many times or several times, many times without cash income, without enough food to eat, without medical care, without water and fuel. Because we try to analyze this result by lead poverty. For those with no lead poverty and high lead poverty, you can see that majority of respondents, 41%, either live under moderate lead poverty or high lead poverty at 3%. So this shows that a lot of Nigerians are poor. The measurement of this, we try to check this across years of, because the same question has been asked over the years, and we saw that there's been an increase of people's participation about how people evaluated themselves about poverty level. You see moderate and highly poverty have consistently gone up from about 8% in 2017 down up to 79% in 2024. And those who say they have low lead poverty or no lead poverty has remained constant from 2022 to 2024. Ask again, in your opinion, what are the most important problems facing this country that the government should address? Respondents were asked to mention 3 problems they feel the government should address. And you can see that the increasing cost of living, crime and insecurity, poverty and exclusion, unemployment came highest. So most Nigerians at 3% say government should address the cost of living. 1% say government should address immediately crime and security. Poverty and exclusion has been 7%, and as well as unemployment. Management of the economy has been 5%, and electricity. Infrastructure, roads, food shortage, and clean mine with 1% and 19%. Health, water supply, education have 14%. Corruption and the rates and taxes have 8% and 6%. Employment and agriculture and democracy, political rights have just 3%. All this shows that the majority of Nigerians are worried about cost of living and insecurity in the country. And they want the government to address that as soon as possible. On fuel subsidy, we asked this question because at the time of this survey, issue of fuel subsidy was top of the discussion in the public space, and we felt we cannot go out to communities without asking questions around fuel subsidy. So that was introduced as country-specific question. This question is not asked in other countries, but they too have their own country-specific questions they ask. For Nigeria, we asked this question, and we found that these are key findings. A large majority of Nigerians, 86% of respondents, disapprove of the government decision to remove fuel subsidies. Only 10% approve of the removal. Almost 6 in 10 Nigerians, 58% say government should reinstate fuel subsidies, even if this means reducing expenditures on important sectors such as education and health. About 1/3, 35% say otherwise. We disagree with that. We ask Nigerians, do you approve or disapprove of government decision to remove fuel subsidy, or haven't you had enough to say? And we found that majority of respondents, 52% say they strongly disapprove the decision by government to remove fuel subsidy. Followed by 3% who say they disapprove. The combination of those who say they disapprove and those who strongly disapprove give us about 86% of respondents. The 5% of respondents who say they disapprove of government decision to remove fuel subsidy. 10% approve and just 2% strongly approve that government should have not have removed the fuel subsidy. So we try to measure, analyze these results by different demographic variables, by gender, rural, south and the north, age, education, and living poverty. You can see that this result is not coming from just one thing. Across social demographic areas, all the respondents, majority of respondents we spoke to, disagree with that government should remove fuel subsidy. If you check, except in the north and south, here we have more respondents from the north saying that government shouldn't have removed fuel subsidy. The reason at that, the result is still high across the nation. So we do what we call cross-tabulation, just to know whether this decision, public opinion about fuel subsidy is driven by, sentiment. We asked, measure those who say the country is going the right direction and those who say the country is going the wrong direction, just to see whether it's coming from this. But if we see that across location, across opinion, majority of respondents who say the country is going in the wrong direction, 70% strongly disapprove or strongly approve of government decision to remove fuel subsidy. And those who thought the country is going the right direction, 75% also disapprove of government's decision to remove fuel subsidy in Nigeria. Again, we try to cross by people's assessment of economic condition and personal living condition. And we see that those who say their country's economic condition is very bad or very bad is quite high, in 70%, as well as those who say the country's economic condition is fairly good and very good. All of these people say that government should not have removed fuel subsidy. And those who say their personal living condition is very bad and very bad, and those who say their personal living condition is very good or fairly good, also think that government should not have removed fuel subsidy. We want further to ask, do you agree or disagree with the following statements? The Nigerian government should reinstate fuel subsidy, even if it means reducing other important expenditures such as education and health. And we found that majority of respondents say actually disagree that government should strongly disagree that government should reinstate fuel subsidy. Sorry, agree, strongly agree. Majority of respondents say government should reinstate fuel subsidy, and help at 2%, and those who strongly agree is 2%. And if we add this from this, those who say agree and strongly agree, we give about 58% of respondents who say government should reinstate fuel subsidy, even if it amounts to reducing expenditure on education and health. If you recall my earlier slide, you will see that education and health actually we are not among the things Nigerians want the government to address. They are pointing at cost of living, unemployment, and distribution. Then we try to check where these responses are coming from, whether they are influenced by location, by gender, by age group, or living poverty or education. We see that across locations, majority of respondents agree strongly or agree that government should reinstate fuel subsidy, even if it amounts to reducing expenditure on other important sectors like education and health. Again, we try to check where these responses are coming from, whether they are influenced by decision. Those who say country is going the right direction, within 9% actually agree and strongly agree that government should reinstate fuel subsidy. And those who say country is also going in the right direction, in the wrong direction, 50% agree very strongly or agree that government should reinstate fuel subsidy. That shows that there is strong agreement by Nigerians that government should reinstate fuel subsidy. We measure this again by economic conditions, by people's evaluation of country's economic condition, as well as personal living condition. We found that whether you are poor or whether you feel your personal living condition is worse or better, or your assessment of the economic condition of the country is worse or bad, the majority of Nigerians agree very strongly or agree that fuel subsidy should be reinstated. You can see those who assess the country's economic condition to be fairly bad, or very bad. 59% say the country, the government should reinstate fuel subsidy. And those who say their personal living conditions are fairly bad or very bad, 7%. And those who say the country's economic condition is fairly good and very good, 1%, also agree very strongly or agree that the government should reinstate fuel subsidy. In conclusion, majority of Nigerians say the country is going in the wrong direction. A substantial majorities evaluate the country's economic condition and their personal living condition negatively. The population of Nigerians with moderate high poverty increased between 2017 and 2022, and it continues to remain high in 2024. Most Nigerians approve of government decision to remove fuel subsidies, with almost a third agreeing that government should reinstate them, even if it means reducing other expenditures such as health and education. Thank you very much. So these are just highlights from what we consider to be the country-specific question. There are quite a lot of questions we ask Nigerian analysis have been done. This is just one segment. We do have further analysis on this. So why we call you today to show you these results. These are some of the things we are all aware of. It's good to have an empirical data to show truly if this is what I'm thinking is what others are thinking. Because like I said earlier, we visited all the states in Nigeria to gather data across the LGAs as well as HCT. So we do have different topics on economy, on security, on gender, on migration, climate change. But it's important to show because at the point of design of the questionnaire, the first stakeholders like you tell us what are the issues we can feel to be solved, and they consider this one the topical issue for us to talk about. And it's very important for us to launch Afrobarometer dissemination in Nigeria with those questions or analysis or results Nigerians consider to be country specific before we can then move on to other countries. Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Please keep the slides on. We're going to have conversations around them. Thank you, Raphael. That was a good presentation. And can I have the slides from the beginning because we're going to have conversations around them. Okay, so basically he has run us through the slides and the conversations or the data have been around, the state of the economy and fuel subsidies. And like I said at the beginning of this conversation, these are critical conversations that we should be having at this time. And that's because Nigerians are groaning. There are complaints from various quarters and people are wondering what is going on. What is our living condition like? Is your living condition a lot better than it was in the previous years? What should we be doing, or what have we done wrongly? What should we be doing? Looking at what the economy is like today, what are the projections for the next 5-10 years? Are we safe? Should we be running away? These are the conversations that I want us to have this morning. So we're going to have a panel discussion and we're going to have a few guests, but that does not restrict anybody here from having these conversations. They will set the tone of the conversations, and then we will have every other person, we'll have it go around and have us all contribute. So we're going to call Barrister Frank Tete. He is the Executive Director for Citizens Advocacy for Social and Economic Rights, CASA. He's going to be one of our panelists. Please let's put our hands together for him. I'm representing the Executive Director of SERAP, Mr. Adetokunbo Mumuni. We have Folashade Aribabu. She is the Program Officer for SERAP, and she will be joining us on the panel. So like I said, we're going to start this conversation from them, but we're also going to throw it back into the house. And, you know, as soon as we're done with this, I would like to know from all of us what the highlights, of this presentation was for us. What are the things that jumped at you? What are the ones that you're most particular about? I want us to have this conversation. Why I wanted us to still have this on is so that we could still run through them and look at what the numbers are saying. But I will start with the panel, and I would want to find out looking through the data, what were the things that stood out for you in the whole of this finding? This is the Afrobarometer R10, and I know you're seeing the data for the first time, but then again, coming from where the space that you work in, what are the things that are particular for you in this conversation? I hope we have the microphones turned on. Okay, so let's start with Falashade. What is it like for you?
Okay, thank you so very much. And I want to commend NOI polls and Afrobarometer. This is wonderful data, and I'm happy that it's public opinion because it actually reflects what a number of us are experiencing in Nigeria. I really love it. But some of the things that jumped at me was the points on
power, which is sovereignty. Now, that one aspect of the state called the government is always a problem. And it's occupied by less than 5% of the population. And that is if you include members of the security forces and all of that to be members of the government. So you see the government is very small in terms, a small aspect of the population. The goal of the government is to cater to the welfare of the people. So this Afrobarometer report is very fundamental because oftentimes we hold meetings as to why is our democracy not working. But here, the people who have the political power that give it to government are saying they don't care about the system of government that is being practiced, so long as these important issues of cost of living, rising cost of living, are addressed or there is sufficient electricity. That should be, and I am happy that irrespective of the number of persons here, we have the mainstream media here that is able to report this. And I say it. And if I have the opportunity as a news analyst, I will say it with all sense of responsibility that Nigerians don't really care about these so-called hundreds of billions of naira we spend on maintaining our democracy. That they wish that such monies be expended on providing electricity and lowering the high cost of living. Now, the point I was trying to make is that where government is failing is that all of us are not supposed to be in government. Government is supposed to be a selection of the best among us to formulate policies, drive them, execute them for the ultimate benefit of every other person, the larger population. So those of us many of us who may not be steeped or skilled in political economy or issues of micro or macroeconomics may not understand why certain decisions of government are taken. Now, government, like the president has struggled severally to do, is to say you are making sacrifices when you suffer as a result of the removal of subsidy. And here we are, after nearly 2 years of removal of subsidy, from the famous expression of subsidy is gone. Nigerians still believe that government was nefarious in its decision to remove subsidy. And if Nigerians were to turn the hand of time and control government today, they will reinstate subsidy irrespective of the several explanations and the political statements that government has made. So, Bayo Nanuga and his retinue of spokesmen for the government, including my friend Daniel Boala and Sunday Dare, have failed to be able to communicate to Nigerians that this is good. The same thing with the Minister of Information. If they were here, they have a right of reply to me. And I'm happy that they can now be told that it's not my opinion. I'm only emphasizing the opinion that here you are, government. Africa should be worried that its inhabitants don't care about an imported system of government, and that that government is failing in its primary responsibility that is so well captured in section 14, subsection 2, one of the most quoted aspects of the Nigerian constitution. Government belongs to the people, and sovereignty belongs to the people, and government must operate according to the constitution, and that government exists for the security and welfare of the people. So these are the two issues that really are very striking. And I believe that as a people, if there was sufficient political education, or rather political communication to the Nigerian people, then Nigerians will understand. Because I've been in this country, and I can only attest to, because I've had a conversation with Funke. Sorry, I'm addressing you, but Mrs. Ladipo, right? Yes, I shouldn't, as an African, I should address you properly. Yeah, so there is need for us to be able to, we have made sacrifices in this country before as citizens. If you look at a poll, and I hope Raphael helps me here when it takes up to that slide where the confidence in government, we talked about confidence in government rising as at 2016, and you know, the confidence level in government rising. No, let me recall my own. Let me recall my own. Is that graph? No, the one before. There's the gradients. Wait, yes, hold it there. Negative assessment of countries' economic condition and personal living cost. Now, not this one. The one before this are close. Good. I think this is it exactly. So let's do some political analysis here. Now, those who believe the country were going in the wrong direction, let's look at the pivotal moment of 2015 and 2017. Now, there was some ray of hope when former President Muhammadu Buhari was re-elected in 2015. Nevertheless, as at 2015, even though we had issues of high-level insecurity, the country was on its knees as a result of Chibok girls. Was it Chibok girls? The girls that were Chibok, Bring Back Our Girls movement? Yes. Now, was at its peak of really humiliating the government of President Goodluck Jonathan, even though the prosperity index at that time was not that bad. Nevertheless, we never experienced palpable fear as much as we had in 2014 and in the wake of 2015. And then, when President Muhammadu Buhari took over in 2017, and you can see the line there, there was it dropped, believing that the number of persons believing that the country was going in the wrong direction dropped because we had a general who could address insecurity. But you see, we also need to look at the unfortunate follow-up that between the times of President Muhammadu Buhari, former President Muhammadu Buhari, 2020, it rose, even in 2022, preceding the 2023 election, it rose as bad as to 89%. This must be highly miserable and should be a serious cause for national concern. That is at 2014, the generality of Nigerians that believe that the country is going in the wrong direction is 93%. So I remember one poem we read. It said, "What malignant fate has put this curse upon you?" So why, for goodness sake, we thought that things could not be worse than the days of bring back our girls. And then a bit of ray of hope came just by the perception of the man's body language. And then it could not be sustained. And what we experienced was simply a degradation to the point where even the so-called master builder of Lagos State, who was to replicate such confidence at the national level, failed woefully. And this is not a criticism against this government, but simply a reflection of what the people think. And a responsible government would would treat this as a form of, with some sense of emergency. I said, people, we need to address these issues. So I think these are very important points to note. And these are not very good figures. And if we, because not everybody went to school, and even those that went to school, some of us didn't go to proper school. I want to say it that way. There's a way you go to a place and you speak English language. Somebody will say, I don't think you did the exam or practice. You properly passed through a Nigerian university. The truth about it is that for every educated Nigerian, because there's a responsibility, and a large section, and we represent a large section of them in this room, we have the responsibility to continue the advocacy fearlessly, because it is not a very noble solution to think of leaving this country, to escape this country and its troubles, to go to another country that someone else has built. They've had, if you have followed economic history of various countries of the world, including the countries of the West, they've had very terrible, worse situations than we are going through. In fact, we are privileged to have references that we can even call upon in terms of finding solutions. It is therefore our responsibility to realize this state of emergency that we are facing, and for us to raise the alarm that things are not going well, and the people are saying it. And if you think you have a magic wand and you're working on anything that is solution oriented as a government, you are also failing in carrying the people along, which means you are a government for yourself, by yourself, and unto yourself. And it's unfortunate for us as a Nigerian citizen.
Thank you very much, Barrister Francis. All right, you seem to have gone round the whole of this data, as it were, because I like the fact that you talked about the imposition of democracy, imposition of democracy, as it were. Nigerians are really not particular about how we're ruled. We just want good governance. So whatever gives us good governance is good for us. And when we talk about policies, and every single day we hear all sorts of policies being formulated, but then again, when it doesn't put food on your table and clothes on your back, we begin to wonder. We begin to wonder the good that's supposed to come out of it. For us, for the yesterday's confidential briefing, we asked, who really is the average Nigerian? But for the average Nigerian, what they just want are the basics, and I think Nigerians do not ask for too much.
Every single Nigerian government against internal and external changes. If that becomes the core of government and driving real practice of the government, my country will be at the strategy. Be a witness that people have done in this country to take visas to leave the West Indies, what we call the Caribbean, and prefer to be citizens of this country. I will be here. My sister told me that her family, yes, the best teacher we have ever had in this country came from Ghana. And when they came to this country, they refused to go back. Our country was a destination because of the freedom we had, because the prosperity we had. And I enjoyed prosperity because, like you, I had free education in Lagos State. You have had a free education of university. At the time I was in the secondary school, free education ending. But in my own state, there was free education from at all levels, that is from primary, secondary, university, and postgraduate. So my state had a problem of looking for persons they needed to sponsor to go and study abroad. It's on record under the leadership of Professor Ambrose Ali during the days of the Unity Party of Nigeria under Obafemi Awolowo. In this country, I experienced it. And between 1979 and 1983 or 45, One of the most unspoken things I can ever imagine in this country is how things went so bad between like 81 and I think 83. However, in 19 that we were so rich that people could, I mean, what are we talking about? Democracy was a destination for medical tourism. There were reasons why we were at that stage. There was a system of government we were practicing. What went wrong? The truth about it is that the basic problem was, apart from incompetence, I think we all agreed many times that the problem was corruption. Because we've seen the number of times that one man would amass to himself state resources that would take care of generation of Nigerians to himself alone. And our Nigerian system did not prevent such unlawful, illegal, and immoral amassing of wealth, but even protects it. And then the person now redefines about political thoughts in this country. That's how we got here. So then this question is saying, what sort of policy? I think that, do we really, do you really think, well, actually, speaking of this issue, do you really think the issue is a matter, is policy based? Should we not think that it is systemic also, or fundamental to the point that it requires a sort of national orientation? And I hate to say this, with this present crop of leaders that we have, who are concerned about control of political power more than the responsibility of political power, care about us enough to change the narrative? So there's an emergency. And it's not only the president. There are members of the National Assembly. There are various members of the state houses of assembly. And then generally, there is the public service. On the other hand, there is a citizenry. What does the citizenry expect of governance or government? So, Nelly, with much respect to you and the question you have already asked, I think that we require much more than policy in the situation that Nigeria finds itself in now. There is a poll telling us in the face. Only 8% of Nigerians care whether or not corruption, you do whatever you like. Did we not have General Abacha in this country as our leader? Were things this bad? But I recall how the Western media vilified General Abacha. And it's a shame on me as a lawyer and a Democrat to now exalt and venerate General Abacha as a much better person than we have had of persons that were produced by a democratic process. So until we leave social media and its entertainment and realize that we are faced with an existential problem, it's no longer about me. I feel so defeated that I'm growing old and will go to the next dimension, and Nigeria became worse for it, and I didn't do anything, and we cannot do anything about it. So it's a call to responsibility.
Barrister Tete, thank you for that extensive talk. So apparently, we're looking at measures that will not exactly that there are sectors or there are things that. So because when we look at corruption, it's endemic. When we talk about it being endemic, sometimes we do not have a grasp of how bad the situation is, because you see it in every facet of our living. You want to get a certificate, you have to do certain things. You want to do this, you have to do. So when we look at this, and Nigerians are not even bothered, as it were, about corruption, and we're looking at is it 8%? So which means that for them, it's just about, let's just get this other ones. The government can do whatever they want to do. But if we decide to even focus on corruption, in terms of reform, where do we even start? I'll let Falashade respond then first.
Thank you. When Barrister was speaking about how they had to show how bad things, things have come. And I have a number of things to also say before I get to respond to the question you've asked very quickly as well. The issue about corruption, maybe we should start from there as to where do we start from corruption. Personally, the way I see corruption, and I like how you had put it that corruption is endemic. It's because again, I hope we know, and I hope we are reminded that our leaders are from us. So most likely our leaders are a reflection of who we actually are. Because our leaders are not aliens, they are not robocops, they are not AI machines, they are us. They're a reflection of who we are. You know, that's why when we're growing up, we say don't spell the family name. Because you're part of that family and it's going to rub. So you are a reflection of your family and where you come from. Our leaders are a reflection of who we are. And so it now trickles down to who we are as individuals. The endemic nature of corruption has so eaten into us, even as individuals. And if we check ourselves seated here, we will find out that even we ourselves are corrupt individuals, as we are seated here in your offices, VIO, FRSC. You're smiling. It's endemic. I'm trying to paint the picture. So you see, pointing fingers, right, is easy, but we are actually all corrupt. Now, I say something very frequently about, there's this popular saying where you cannot take the spoils of a strong man without first binding the strong man, right? So what it means is that if I am seated here as a leader and I know that nobody is going to ask me a question, then why would I stop stealing? It just follows with the human nature. If mommy will not say stop that, then I will continue to do that. If daddy will not put a measure there for me not to, and that's why you have law enforcement. Going back to the issue of processes, right? And so that's why we have gatekeepers. We have issues. We're talking about policies and reforms. Now, it's not even, and like you said, it's not about having new policies or having new legislations and all of that. It's about how do we keep and enforce and implement these regulations? How do we ensure? Because like I said, if you give me 10 million naira now and say that I should share to everybody in the room, right? If I know that none of you will look into how I am spending 10 million naira, I can as well run away with the whole 10 million naira. Because you will not ask me a question, you will not ask me a question, you will not ask me a question, then I am free. So it's a human thing to behave in that way. And which some of us have done different situations. And so that's why I keep harping on transparency simply means show everybody how you are spending. Accountability simply means that I tell him that this is how I am spending the 10 million naira. Somebody is there to hold me accountable for spending. So it's very simple, right? And that is why Nigerians do not understand that the reason why they don't have security, why they're poor, why they don't have jobs, is because there is somebody who is in charge of ensuring that you have those things. But corruption, which is on the foundation of lack of transparency and accountability, is what is making you not have those things at the top. So if we're not asking questions, which brings me back to the real point I want to make, as to say that the onus now falls largely on citizens. And I like when you mentioned something about orientation. And you said something about orientation and educating the people on political policies. And I think that the government on one hand, well, if any of them are in the room, they can make a case for saying why we did this. And we also want, the reason we move first subsidies also because we want people to have this and this and this. There is therefore now a gap in between. The mass is not mass. The policy is not policy anymore because people don't have these things anymore. But the reason why we don't have those things, because even we have not awakened to understand that the reason we don't have those things, because we're not holding our leaders to account as we should. You see, we actually have the power. And as I also wrap up, I'd like to also end on a positive note to say that Barrister said that we should leave social media. I don't think so. I think that there's power in social media.
I think the entertainment.
Okay, the entertainment part, right? Okay. I don't think so. Because government listens, guys. They actually listen. But I believe the power is on us. Like I said, you cannot take the spoils of a strong man without first binding the strong man. You can't say, give me my money. Nobody wants to give you the money because they are the ones in charge. If they don't know that you're looking at them, like one of my friends say, if they don't know that you are on their neck, if they don't know that, then it's possible that they can hide processes. They can. And so what we do at Serap, like he was trying to say, I think I was going to respond to you. We don't only sue at ECOWAS court. We sue at Federal High Court, and we have judgment from Federal High Court.
Yeah, there's one ECOWAS court. I know it. A very good one on not only apart from the cyber, which I'm also dealing with. Okay. There's one on the universal basic education.
Yes, you bet.
It started in ECOWAS court.
Okay.
Look, well, we also let me be honest with you. Let me be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
If a quarter of Nigerian citizens have the sense and spirit of Serap, this country will be far, far better than the way it is. Now, it turns out that as I do closely what Serap does with a very small way, but it turns out that oftentimes whenever Serap is in the news, I'm always called upon naturally to discuss whatever Serap is doing. So I've been following it. The truth about it is that when we talk about quality life, we talk about good living standards, right? I think that organization has a sense of what is good living standard for Nigeria. Sorry, I'm taking your time. Yes. And again, if I must just extend the time, but this corruption is a buzzword. Let's be trendy and realize that Donald Trump is now president of the United States. Mm-hmm. And he suspended United States, the activities of the United States Agency for International Development. And he did so with underlying accusation that the USAID operations have been corrupt. It did not only stop there. There is a law called the Foreign and Corrupt Practices Act, which I believe, when I did my long essay as a law student, it was on foreign investment in Nigeria. And I realized that it's only the US possibly that punishes its citizens for giving bribes in another country. It is that Donald Trump, who became president, and said no, has suspended the FCPA, meaning that he's encouraging American businessmen to join the leagues of the Chinese businessmen and other businessmen, like the ones who were accused of giving bribes, who came from Siemens and the rest, to give bribes to Nigerians. So encouraging American businessmen to also give bribes to win contracts. Because in business, when you give bribe to a government official to have favorable approval or favorable disposition to your application, in business, it is termed with a very euphemistic language called facilitation. It is not called bribe, whereas it is outright bribe. Now, there are indices that show that several other countries, and even if there's a Chinese national here, I know this will go viral. I dare say that the Chinese and the Lebanese and many other Asian nationals who do business in this country have been accused of giving bribes. And the records are there, whether the ones that, and even to Western businessmen, because we saw what happened in NNPC and the Ministry of Petroleum. Now, the idea is that corruption, this is why I respect this poll, which is not different from the credibility of the polls that either NOI polls or Afrobarometer has done in the past. Now, the idea is this: where Nelly describes corruption as being endemic, but have you considered it that it could be a way of life? And that it has produced results for some persons? So when the Chinese comes and he gives bribes to get a mining lease, a mining lease, he doesn't say anything wrong with it. And then he employs people, he gives them whatever they agree and all of that. But if an American under the FCPA, before Trump came with this, difficult to understand policy of suspending the FCPA, if an American were to give the same money to an official of the Ministry of Solid Minerals, there used to be a ministry like that, or there's a name like the yes, and it becomes corruption. So I beg in 1 minute to say this, and many of you are young, so you may not have listened to Fela Anikulapo's classic on democracy. He said, "What we were here on our own. We're having our own governments, making our own progress, having empires. They didn't come to tell us before Benin City, Benin Empire had all those streets and street lights. We once had it. They were not here before Benin Empire had an embassy in Portugal. We were operating as various empires across Africa, and particularly to my dear sister from Ghana, even the Ashanti and the other, empires and the rest of them. We had it until some persons came and told us that this is the way to do governance. And we took it hook, line, and sinker, saying, whereas we were not prepared for it, how can you operate democracy with this level of illiteracy? Whereas democracy has to be run on ideas. How many times do you think that the presidential candidates would have a debate and that will determine whether or not the policies that they intend to drive will determine whether they will win or not? Some presidents and governors we have had in this country have cared less. They've refused to show up at debates because democracy is supposed to be based on the ideas and this issue of policies that you are talking about. So what it means is that there were certain things that we have not right for, and there are certain things that have been defined and redefined for us against the tenets of our culture and historical, development. And because of that, we are a people in constant crisis with ourselves and our environment. How then do we develop?
All right. I like the angle that you have taken this to. I would have, but for want of time, I would have wanted to ask, if not democracy, then what else? However,
there is not. Look, I need to answer you that question because it's dangerous, so that they don't come and tell me that I'm asking for military coup. The truth is this. The truth is this. We've gone to a point of no return. Right? Nevertheless, this democracy must be reformed. That's the reason why you hear some of them say we call for restructuring. The question will be restructuring what? From where do we start and where do we end? Clearly, this democracy, as it was handed over to us by the British, has not helped us. And the way we are practicing it shows, bring that slide again, simply shows that we are going from bad to worse and we are headed for extinction. Which means this phone is sounding an alarm. Revise your steps, retrace your steps, and get the right course. Or else we will leave this place as miserable person, however rich or poor that we may have been.
So we should be looking at customizing, as it were, to indigenalize our democracy.
This democracy, for goodness sake, how do you think that we can ever catch up with the West and create a good living standard for these nearly 200 million plus people if we operate like this? Where after 2 years of an elected president, he doesn't think about government anymore. He thinks about re-election. He thinks about calculates how he will take out his political enemies and all that. He doesn't care about the responsibility of government. How do we build a democracy? How do we put people at the center? How do we catch up with the Asian tigers that we were better than in the 70s? What is this? Look, it is not about us. We could be inherently corrupt. We could corrupt power because absolute power or power corrupts. However, if a system brings out the best and heads us to a point of progress, we will be in that direction. This system as it is configured to make us look worse and go from bad to worse, and we may not be in existence if we continue like this.
All right, I'm going to pour some water on the floor at this point. And I'm going to move away from this part, and let's look a little at subsidy. And so I mean, fuel subsidy removal was supposed to actually improve the economy, economic efficiency of Nigeria. However, we're actually wondering at the point where we are in this country if the fuel subsidy removal was a curse or a blessing in itself. So if we're looking at let's even look at the long-term benefits of this, or the risk of it, as it were. So if we are to look at that, is if there is a long-term, is there a benefit first? I think we should start with that. Is there a benefit, to what we have now as the removal of the fuel subsidy? And what is the risk of us still maintaining this removal of the fuel subsidy? anybody can respond to this, and I would appreciate if we can respond to this as fast as we can, so we can allow the media and every other person contribute to this conversation.
Okay, so because no, see, this is you said it all, and we need to ask questions, right? Political education should not be limited to this class of persons who went to school and who are enlightened. It should go beyond to persons who want to every Nigerian. So the question that Nelly poses is important. Yes, I would say the removal of fuel subsidy was supposed to have benefits. We saw the benefits under General Sani Abacha, and God forgive me, and I hate to say, I do not prefer military to a democratically elected government. However, when there was a sort of fuel subsidy removal for the purpose of savings, a sort of PTF was established. And I see a number of us here who lived through the PTF days. And they appointed a certain clean fellow who later became president, or former head of state who later became president. In fact, the cult followership of Muhammad Buhari didn't start because he was head of state, because he was head of state for just about 1 year. It was because he got that impression of Mr. Integrity, Mr. No Pride, when he was handling PTF funds. People saw the money as it came, and then we saw roads being constructed. In my own local government, you could go there and you go to the hospital, soap was being given to you free of charge. It was provided by PTF. So the idea was that if subsidies were unsustainable and they were ridden with a lot of corruption, the expectation, and while a number of us supported its removal, was that we were promised that there will be savings. And as true to as it was under the Shopee subsidy reinvestment scheme, we saw that monies were gathered and certain investments were made in terms of road and infrastructure. But when we saw the trillions of naira that would be saved as a result of removal of subsidy, we gave it a thought. And this is not street knowledge. It requires some thinking. It requires some economic analysis. And it's not everybody that has it. That's why it shouldn't be a populist decision. That's why I'm also not surprised that the polls show that they didn't support the removal of subsidy, because not majority of Nigerians actually did that kind of study. And that's why I said government failed in its ability to break down, because there's this idea of stepping down knowledge. That's why we have communication experts. So if government has communication experts that have been unable to tell a good story about the removal of subsidy and the benefit it held for Nigerians, then they fail. Unfortunately, this is where the disappointment came from. We already had a precedent in Muhammad Buhari's PTF and Goodluck Jonathan's Shopee. The expectation was that there would be an improvement in Bola Tinubu's subsidy savings, only for the president to announce that he shared the money to the governor. I mean, just imagine that. The president said, go to your governors. I gave them the money. And then governors actually got increased naira. Whether the increased naira was as a result of the floating of naira because it's against the dollar, it's a different question. But for goodness sake, you shared the money and gave to this profligate fellow, and the responsibility of saving the money was yours. The responsibility of spending the money was yours as a federal government. Why shirk that responsibility? Why pass it to the governors? And I think that's where Nigerians are failing to see the savings, the so-called savings from subsidy. They don't get it. So all they have witnessed has been hardship, and this is the true reflection, as we have seen in the poll today, that has now made the whole, laudable expected goal of subsidy removal to be a huge total failure, because whether you like it or not, the ultimate judge of political power will be the people. If we were to have credible elections, free and fair, and that cannot be rigged, the people will speak loudly because of what they feel about subsidy. It could have been otherwise if the benefits of removal of subsidy were more tangible than we have seen.
All right. Can I just add to that? And I like how you put it to say that, like, to Nigerians, like I was saying, there's an economic angle and a governance angle. So like the economic angle has all of the quote unquote economic gibberish that the average Nigerian really doesn't have to. How does it affect them? How does it affect them one-on-one? How can they send their children to school and all of that? And speaking about giving to the state governors, I remember that Sarah had gone to an issue at FOI. So I think in June of last year, when asked, okay, so we've heard that you said 400 billion since when? So what have you done with the money? You see, those are the issues again we're talking about. How that the government, the Ministry of Justice, will come to court to defend why they shouldn't give you that information. So why would we trust the government? This is what we're talking about: trust deficit, transparency, and accountability. So of course, people are looking at say, but it's our money. It's called public funds, now our money. So how come we're asking you questions about it and you are coming to court to defend why you will not give us that information? And so there are many cases we take to court that we don't even have to take to court. They're just freedom of information. What are you doing with our money? Simple, right? And that's how I was talking about the power that citizens hold to continue to put requisite pressure on government to do this. The issue of giving state government money. I remember when the Minister of Economy had said that we had shared of 5 billion, they were going to give them, they said 2 billion to each state. And we also wrote the same FOI to 36 state governors. And you have state governors, state
living conditions. We see that many Nigerians are actually struggling, with high food, high food prices, increased transportation costs, declining purchasing, power. And we also, when we still look, I think on that chart alone, I mean, we can have a thousand of those conversations for an entire year. And when we look at still that particular chart that was up earlier, we see that, unemployment is also an issue that Nigerians are worried about. So we also look at unemployment and underemployment, which is also another issue, which is also on the rise. And we are wondering, what are the practical steps that government can take to actually ease all of these burdens on Nigerians? Very briefly, so that we can go to the audience.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. I've spoken to it before. See, so part of our work as advocates of high living standards for Nigerians, all Nigerians, citizens of Nigeria, is that Nigerians should be able to have some measure of social security, right? And if they don't have it, they should be, the atmosphere should be liberalized in such a way to harness their natural resources, their human resources. So you mentioned not only unemployment but underemployment, a situation where you have people that are skilled and well trained but do not have work to do. And even if they are doing some form of employment or labor, they are working in situations where they are highly underutilized, right? I mentioned the need for our country to liberalize the space, the economic space. And for example, I come from the Niger Delta. And before much of oil exploration left the onshore to offshore, and there's the exclusive refinement, I would say, or rather refining, use it that way, of petroleum into petroleum hydrocarbons to get the various hydrocarbons is done by what we call as formal refineries. So it has to be the RPC, WRPC or PHRPC or whatever. But let's see a situation where there is a liberal economic environment that would allow artisanal mining. I mean, artisanal mining, artisanal refining of petroleum products. Imagine the number of jobs that could be created. Now, it reached a crisis level before this removal of subsidy, where it was difficult. If you know a little bit about what the corruption in the petroleum, oil and gas sector, that whereas some importers were collecting subsidies for petroleum products, especially diesel that were diesel and that were imported, such products that were imported, they were actually collecting these products from the creeks, from what they call coal fire, quote unquote. from persons who were cooking crude oil around in the mangrove forest and then getting it down. But they were doing it with under an illegal cover. And occasionally, members of the JTF will raid them. And if they are able to settle at in terms of agreed terms, they leave them. And if they want to continue such a form of illegal petroleum refining, they will continue to settle the JTF. That is members of the JTF there. That's why at the time it became a big thing. Members of the armed forces, police, and the services were lobbying, bribing to go to the Niger Delta because there were a lot of returns from that.
This is a huge indictment.
No, but I'm saying it now. I say with a sense of responsibility. I say with a sense of responsibility, right? At the level some of us have reached, we are able to say certain things and we can verify them, right? Now, not only that. So the point is that imagine if you liberalize that space and the number of employments that can be generated. And then let us also look at one aspect, and I don't say this as any form of to placate those boys who are very unruly that are referred to as Yahoo boys. I don't see any reason why the posture towards young men with latent skills in information technology and recently artificial intelligence are being perceived, the social construct about them is that they should be hunted down and either killed or kept in prison or whatever because they are Yahoo boys. See, if the people could govern themselves, they didn't need a government. If the people could reform themselves, they didn't need a government. Why has it not been that we have a national policy to reintegrate and redirect this negative perception about our young boys who have skills, who are using their information technology skills negatively to be scammers, to the extent that Nigeria becomes the head. Oh, I think I've been, maybe I was, I mean, am I being censored?
Turn off your mic.
There's a way you are in the media and you are mistalking and the station doesn't want to pay fine to NBC, they just turn you off. So that, but we can't put all these resources together. Afrobarometer puts all of these efforts together and we reach this point and then we'll come and say politically correct things. I think we should say things the way they are. So Nelly has raised the question. Well, I thought she was going to let us go much earlier than this, but she eventually raised the question on unemployment and underemployment. And we're saying that, see, the mass number of our young people, sharp young people, are engaged in a crime of or in cyber crimes today, to the extent that our country has become the headquarters of scamming in the entire world, especially in terms of the romantic scam or the scams of even advanced form of scams like phishing, and all that. Serious cyber crimes. If there is a way we can reintegrate and redirect by policy how to harness the skills of these young people and create our own African Silicon Valley in this place. You need to see how brilliant these boys are. Only a few of them came out and they brought out one called Paystack. And then give me the other one again. There's another one that collects money each time you're buying a flight ticket. These are young people. Just imagine just a few of them. The boy that sold Paystack for, no, there's another one. What's the name? It's there. It's another pay company. That is blazing, Flutterwave. Is that in Nigeria? Now, meanwhile, you have millions of such kind of persons that could be, redirected in this country. So, when our policy, our government officials, do they really care about the unemployed? And the people who are really unemployed are not people like us, are young people who are more skillful. And then we employ, what do we do to them? The posture is the mindset of the average security man who sees a dreaded young Nigerian, because they are very assertive and they are very, I would say, psychedelic. those persons who work in those young boys. Instead of us looking at them as tech experts, giving loans to them the way they gave money to the man who owns Facebook. What's his name? It's like, yes, a small boy. And then it turned out to be such a billionaire. Our own is to hunt them down, raid them in the night, shoot them, and do whatever it is. And we'll talk about unemployment. If today we have a hackathon competition in Abuja, and say the baddest boys you come, and then let them come and do. The EFCC chairman, and I quote him, said it, that one of the arrested boys in front of him, he said, the boy told him, say, give me your phone number, and I will tell you what is your account now, and then I will move money from that your account to another account. And then he gave it in front of him. The boy did a few things and did that. And then the EFCC chairman, this current chairman, he said he was amazed. And then the question is, what kind of conscience would you have to send that kind of boy to prison? But that's until government is not an easy job. It's not tea party. It's not where you go and collect salary. Government is a lot of work. It's a lot of innovation, thinking of how to salvage situations and problems. And our country presents opportunities for persons to turn things around, persons in government, because problems are opportunities for us to actually make improvements. And the problems are in our people. So I just mentioned two sectors, the oil and gas industry and the information technology industry, where policies can actually change the face of unemployment in those areas.
All right, thank you, Barrister Tete. This is the point where I take it to the audience, and we're going to take questions so that we can wrap up. So if we have questions, can you signify by raising up your hand so that we can pass the microphones around? Can we have microphones passed around, please? All right, so we'll have the man from please pass it. I appreciate if we can make the questions or the comments very brief so that we can respond and then leave.
Okay, thank you.
Please, would like your name, the organization that you represent.
My name is Hajaran Lanibelu. I'm from NAPTIP. I work at NAPTIP. I want to thank Afrobarometer and NOI Post. But I just want to ask that after you have done all this work and you have put it out to the public, I want to know, do you just leave it at that? Because it's a lot of work we put out here. So do you just leave it, or do you go extra miles, tell the government, okay, this is what the people feel, you're not doing well, you failed? Do you profess solutions to them, or do you just sit and watch? Because we can keep on talking, the government.
All right.
The government doesn't do this.
Okay, so let me respond.
Talk about solutions.
Okay, let me respond to that.
We can.
Okay. No, hold on. Okay, so let me respond to that first. Like I said at the introduction, this is just one of the very many interactions that we have. Over the years, we've worked with NAPTIP. We've worked with a few of your DGs over the years. I think you were around yesterday. So we had a confidential briefing. It was supposed to be for government officials. How many government officials were around yesterday? Because they would not show up. Good. So when you call the government officials, when you call the heads of parastatals, you call the DGs, they send in their officials to come. Does this message get to them? Because like I said, there are a lot of interactions that we do. Like I keep talking about NAPTIP. We've worked with NAPTIP over the years because we put out reports about migration, child rights, women's rights, trafficking in persons and all of that. So I've worked with a lot of your directors and a lot of your DGs. This is what we do with this information. It is ours to mine and give it to you, and you run with it because you are the ones in charge of you have the mandates, you know. Ours is, it is more like corporate social responsibility for us to find out what Nigerians and Africans are saying as regards particular issues. So when we give this to you, what do you do with it? It is supposed to guide your policies. We have radio media interviews. We are on Ray Power every Friday, 5 to 6 p.m. We call your people. We come and have interactions. We're on TV. We're on the social media. We have policy dialogues. Barrister Tete can attest to that. He's always here when we call. He's talking on food insecurity. He's talking about security. He's talking about human rights. You know, so these are us doing our own little bit. So when we pass it on to you, we expect that you run with it in your policies. That's why we also have the media here, expecting that the media too will carry on the advocacy. That's why we have the CSOs here who are in charge of advocacy, and we expect that as we give them this information, that they run with it. That's what we do. We do not run an advocacy. We do not run an advocacy here. Neither are we a news station.
Then the answer is simple. Serap does something. Well, I guarantee you that flowing from this place, if Serap does not fight,
you're going to sue somebody.
So that is sure. And that's the reason why I call for an applause for Serap, because when it looks as if there is crass, because when you don't respond, it becomes irresponsibility, right? So you raise the question of responsibility. Yes, there are civil society organizations that have consistently responded, like Sarah. But you don't expect them to take up arms and come and arrest people in government. Or not. If you got for information, let me tell you something. There's a particular section in the Nigerian Constitution, section 6, subsection 6, no, section 6, subsection 6. Let's look at it. Yeah, thereabout. First, a certain section. Chapter 2 of the Constitution, I think from section 14 through section 24 to section 23, I would say, are sections that say give free education to Nigerians, give free health to Nigerians, ensure that Nigerians have thorough welfare. It talks about policies on foreign relations, on education, on social security. Well, the good things that government is supposed to do. That's what is prescribed under section chapter 2 of Nigerian Constitution. But that particular section 6, it says that if the government says to do that, don't take the government to court. And you cannot do anything to the government official. Can a constitution legislate such irresponsibility on the part of, and that is our country, the country that we chose to have. You say good the very things that determine quality of life, you put them in our constitution. You ensure that court orders are obeyed, ensure there's rule of law, and all sort of good things. Go and check them. All the good things that government is supposed to do are put there. What's so beautiful? In fact, well expressed. And then you now add there that in case the guys decide to trust the body, do nothing, decide to just turn government upside down, you cannot go there responsible. So how you manage to go to court? That's why I laugh. Because what Serap has mastered in doing is that in going to court, they are able to bring out 1,000 issues and wake up billions of Nigerians to the real issues, because the power lies in the hands of millions of Nigerians, because they're the ones who are supposed to say, okay, your time is up, come out, you go. That's why electoral reforms, elections are key to the democratic process. If your elections are no longer certain, then forget about it, because it means you don't even have the power anymore, no matter how educated you are. So you raised a very fundamental matter of responsibility. Whereas you are saying that if you fail as government to do it, what will the people do? We carry arms against you for what now? When the constitution says that we should not to mind our business, what you fail?
All right, can we take the next question, please?
Okay, so firstly, I would like to appreciate NOI polls for the rigorous work that has been done. Afrobarometer, yeah. Afrobarometer.
Your name and your organization, please.
Okay, Martins, AK is my name, from the Center for Social Justice. So congratulations to Afrobarometer for the rigorous work that has been done. I took note of the sample size was really, really huge. So I would imagine that so much has been done. Congrats on that. Just to share my thoughts on the conversation around democracy and political rights being the least in terms of what Nigerians were yearning for. You see, for me, in social science, every concept has underlying assumptions. And people commonly define democracy as government of the people, for the people, and by the people. Democracy has underlying assumptions. And the underlying assumption here is that the people are the ones taking the decisions because they have the knowledge, the education, and the independence, financial independence now to take a decision. So if you have 100 persons in this room and it's time to vote, democracy assumes that the 100 persons will vote for who they perceive is the right candidate because they have the intellectual capacity and the knowledge to analyze the candidates and make the best possible decision. But when you have a situation where somebody, maybe an elite, right, brings money and buys the votes of 99 out of the 100 persons there, and he tells the 99 persons, vote for candidate A, and he has bought their votes, the 99 persons will vote for candidate A. So in actual sense, you've not had government of the people, for the people, and by the people. You've had government of the elites, for the elites and by the elite, because it was the elites that determined who the people will vote for by virtue of his financial authority, permit me to say, over them. So the assumptions in democracy is that, number one, the people have that, they are wealthy enough to take a stand and vote for their stand on any issue, right? They are knowledgeable and intelligent enough, they are educated enough. So when you have a large percentage of your population being poor, then the underlying assumption upon which democracy is based has been broken and defeated. When you have a large percentage of your people being, would I say, illiterate or uninformed, as is the case in Nigeria, that underlying assumption is being broken. Then it becomes worse when it is multidimensional, both poor and uninformed or illiterate. So for me, because those assumptions upon which democracy is based are not present, then we can't actually be practicing a democracy. And that is why the people did not indicate interest in democracy and political right, because they don't even exactly. Thank you.
Please, 1 minute. You see, you just described what we call the effects of a state capture. Are you getting it? So look at it this way, and that's, I am venerated and praised Sarah a lot. You know why? The reason is this: government is supposed to be small, weak in compared to the people, accountable to the people. But when that small group of persons that are supposed to be servants eventually go there, who are supposed to be servants of the state, whose duty is to cater to the people, now eventually weaponize poverty and then stifle free speech, and then you make government so strong and capture all the state institutions and make them oppressive, the people now become oppressed. That is what we call oppression. See, what social advocates are trying to do is for the people to recapture that power from that elitist group that will come and give a semblance of democracy. You see, so the state capture is a problem. When you hear about, it's a big issue. We didn't come here to discuss democracy. We came here to discuss, we restricted ourselves to this issue. But when you spoke and make it look as if the rich man came and bought votes. No, it is just an expression of the original plan of emasculating the people of their power. And now the people are inconsequential. How can we revert to people power? That is it. I cited section 6 of section 6. That's it. That's very important. Note it down. Also note that section 14. where it says section 14, section 2 of our constitution, it states it. Power, sovereignty, ultimate power belongs to them. Where the people cannot, but now take another look at the word judicial capture. Where the same way you are speaking as if the people made a mistake, or they are also responsible for allowing their votes to be bought, or for not being able to be well informed. If judges can be captured and put in the palms of politicians and they do whatever they tell them to do, is it the ordinary people that didn't even go to school? Do you really need to have formal education to know that you have natural power to be able to vote? So it is I would say that dysfunctionality of the purpose of government that is destroying us. We will not allow it, and the only way to counter it is consistency, saying the right thing all the time, in the hope that even you who are talking one day will become president. Unfortunately, one of the greatest tragedies is that these men that we followed as pro-democracy activists in the past, these men that changed out the military, when they eventually became leaders, they are now worse than the military. I am now wondering, where does the hope of this country lie? Nevertheless, let us not be hopeless.
Thank you very much. Can we have one more person before we wrap up? Okay. 1, 2. Okay. All right.
Thank you. Larry Babalala my name from Africa Independent Television. My question is to Barrister. While you were talking, you painted a picture of what Nigeria used to be in the 70s, the early 80s. Yes, we read it, and we long to have such days now. Now, the question is, what went wrong? Now, because if we know how we got it wrong, from the poll, 94% say Nigeria is heading the wrong way. Then we're heading the right way. That's why we add all those indices. So what went wrong that made us to head the wrong way? That is the first question. The second is, now what should we begin to do now to get us back to track? Thank you.
I was about to say that in 1 minute.
Except you, to be honest with you, sir, thank God that you are a journalist. The truth is difficult, sir, because the history is I know the history, particularly from 1862 in this country. When did that was 1862? When did the British invade Lagos when they annexed Lagos and made a colony? Lagos was part of British colony. No, 18, whatever it is. We'll look at the time, right? I know where, as a lawyer, what I did, my study of history, I didn't write exams on history, so I don't bother about the dates. But from I think it's 1862, when the British made Lagos a part of Britain. And they annexed it. Lagos became it was a part of Britain. True to how we developed, we went all through those conferences. Our constitutional journey started in 1914. But before then, they were just there to raid the resources, of this country. And then we made progress until 1954, where we really had the progress. We had the future of Nigeria well laid out to say, let it be a federation and let everybody control their resources, and let's have a federal government to deal with external relations and all of that. And then we moved on to independence in 1960. I'll close, Nelly, I promise you, I'll do this in less than 2 minutes. In 1960, then 1963, we became a self-governing independent country. And then we struck gold. The real problem, it was supposed to be a problem, but the Civil War came, right? And I'm not sure we have been completely healed. We've completely recovered from the problem the Civil War created. But another thing was that money came in abundance immediately after the Civil War that we didn't know what to do with it. I'm talking about 1970. Unfortunately, we had a military government in place that didn't know what to do with money to the extent that our then head of state would hear that one African country couldn't pay the salaries of their workers. We paid it. We were responsible for funding. That's the reason why you see all of these ECOWAS here. They were once in Lagos and all we built. We didn't know what to do with money. That was a big problem. And so the likes of Jerome Udoji and Philip Asiodu should answer the question at that time because they were the ones who were advising the military government. And then here came Olusegun Obasanjo, who decided to say, let us have a democracy as a result of pressure and all that. 79 came, we had Shehu Shagari. And then we had a stable country. My brother, when I read Daily Times in 1980, the advert will be that return ticket from London with hotel, everything combined, 200 naira. You know, though it was Nigerian Airways. Nigerian Airways was one of the biggest airlines in the entire world at that time. Now, those were, whereas, and you could see, I could read, and I record this vividly in Abiola's paper, National Concord. They were still saying Nigeria was going down at that time. Because I recall one pocket cartoon where one guy was complaining against Shagari's government. He said the government has changed. It is now NCCP, Nigerian Chop Chop Party, and our motto is chop, make I chop. You know, there were complaints. Abiola set up Concord to actually criticize the government of Shehu Shagari at that time. Nevertheless, the spending, I mean, time is a problem. Now, what happened? As at 1983, because on the 31st of December 1983, that was when Buhari took over. As at that time, there was no money anymore for the government, federal government to spend. There was no, because what the Shehu Shagari government was doing was just simply spending money and all that. Money finished. That was when we started experiencing what we call austerity measures that were introduced in 1984. Essential commodities and all of those things. So, one word, sir, is that of bad governance. We failed. Our leaders, something went wrong. Then, if you look at the characters of the MPN at that time, they were reigning. Either as Adisa Akiloye, as chairman of the party, Umaru Diko, or Uba Ahmed, or just mention them. All those guys who were wielding power in that Second Republic, which was the only hope. Because we just moved on from a very prosperous country to a democracy. At that time, we were in the same class with Malaysia, Singapore, and the rest of them. We were even better than them. Better than Brazil and the rest of them at that time. What happened? Our politics killed us. The politics of do everything possible to hold Obafemi Awolowo down. We ensured that there was, and so we lost sight. So in one word, our politics killed us. You see, when I turn on the television, I enjoy watching British politics. I was telling Mrs. Ojo a while ago that our young sister will soon be prime minister. Because at that time, I also followed the British politics to see what Margaret Thatcher was doing. Because we were watching C-SPAN and all those times, it was not very easy to get opportunity to watch all those times. But you could see a young British prime minister saying, look, we were going to bring down Argentina and take the Falkland Islands. So we had opportunity of comparing governments with governments. But in our own case, it was just a competition for degradation, for failure. So our country failed because we didn't have statesmen. Where our politics was not that of, that was not enduring, was not that of creating a country for tomorrow, but it's like, let us live and die. Eat up everything, eat up our future and whatever. It is because of the bad policies and bad governance and bad politics of that Second Republic era that landed us into where we are today. The bad politics of the First Republic gave them, because actions go with consequences. The bad politics of between 1954 to 1966 gave us the Civil War. And then the bad politics of between 1979 and 1983 gave us the bad situation that we are in. Until we decidedly make up our mind to now have a U-turn and say, let us build the biggest and the greatest country on the face of the African continent. At that point we were.
Let me tell you where at the time when Gowon decided to make Africa the centerpiece of foreign policy of Nigeria, that is, we don't have a foreign policy, it's only Africa. We were building things. We were the forefront. We were everything to the black man anywhere in the world. Any black man will look up to a country like Nigeria. We failed. And unfortunately, one of the things, as small as it may be, and because of my sister from Ghana, was so painful to me, was that in the 80s, when Steve Wonder and the rest of them came to Nigeria, during, in the 70s, during First Act 77, because we had so much money, we invited the whole of Africa to bring all their gods and goddesses to come and dance in Lagos. And everybody that was black, there was a black man in the world that was anybody was in Lagos. Because that was when I had the festival of festival of Black arts and culture. The black, it was a CBAX, black something like that. What? We have money. Even from Brazil, even if you are from Cuba, so long as you have a black skin, just come, they'll give you hotel, they'll pay everything for you, you will leave. And some never went back because the enjoyment was too much.
But we are still doing it, sir.
And Stevie Wonder was here, he wished he was Nigerian. And then when he got old and he now decided he was going to move back to Africa, he didn't move back to my country anymore. He moved to Ghana. I almost cried. And then I saw when the Ghanaian president, with pride, was administering the oath of citizenship to Stevie Wonder. The man who was once, where was it? Lagos John, where at that time when he came, this man, when he came in 1977, he wished he was a Nigerian. But in his old age, as he knew he was going to die, and coming back to Africa, he didn't come back here, he went to Ghana. So it's a decision, it has to be a decision for us to reverse this trend. And Lord willing, we are alive, we will do what we can do. And that includes every one of us here, with the resolution that, look, we can be better than the Americans. After all, they are as corrupt as we are, they are anything that,
exactly.
that we have been.
Oh, exactly. Oh, okay, we need to end the session.
Yes.
So, can we take 60 seconds questions and they'll respond to it in their closing remark? Oh, yes, they'll respond to it in the closing. Please, 60 seconds, please, and let them respond in the closing remark.
It's like the barrister should not stop again. I think you should retire as a lecturer. Thank you so much, Afrobarometer, for this education and this opportunity to actually disseminate the survey reports. And I would also like to thank the panelists. It's been so insightful, all the issues raised. For me, I don't really have a question, but just to comment this meeting and to say that for the survey, unfortunately, we don't have a sample of the survey that went out. Otherwise, when you talk of removing when the people are saying they prefer, issue of subsidy removal, for instance, is like maybe 50-50 or more. Some people want it removed, some don't want it removed. But ordinarily, you will say, yes, it should not be removed because, of course, the problem we are now in Nigeria is as a result of the subsidy removal. But what led to its removal is the fact that a lot of the money are being pocketed. That information, I think a lot of people are also ignorant of it. To the extent that you can say 10 ships pass in Lagos for the oil to be discharged. But at the end of the day, we are all Nigeria. We've got to know that even out of those 10, maybe just 2 are carrying oil, and yet they will pay 10 just because the subsidy is there. So why should it not be removed? So what I'm trying to say is that I don't know whether those kind of information or examples are in the survey to enable the respondent take appropriate decision. Having said that, I want to also say that part of the problem we have in Nigeria is that now we are asking, are we progressive or are we going down as a country? When last do we have national development plan or talking about it? In a civilized country, it is the national development plan that directs and guides the affairs of the nation, irrespective of who comes in, maybe 2027 now. Yeah. If we have that national plan, it continues, and that will have stabilized and make us a sustainable government. Apart from the fact that we are practicing politics of ethnicity, wastages, the winner takes it all. And like you have said, rightly said by the panelists, yes, education is our right as a child of Nigeria. But if you are not given, you cannot take the government to court to say, you're supposed to train me. Why are you not giving me education? Which is, I think our national assembly, they should be ashamed of themselves for putting that kind of habits. I would say that the main problem I also subscribe to is the problem of inconsistency of government. To the extent that whatever is good in the government, other than sustaining it, because it is done by Jonathan, for instance, we try to get to see with it because it was Obasanjo who introduced it. No, I can't continue with that. And that is also a problem of the absence of a national rolling plan as a country. So inconsistency is a major problem that we have as a government, and that is why we are going there. I don't want to repeat all that was said. Otherwise, sometimes in the US, I met a woman who told me she was in the University of OSU to school. She's an American. That she came all the way from America to come and study in Nigeria. The likes of Nelson Mandela, they all school in Nigeria.
How Becky was here?
Look at us today. But nobody you are ashamed to introduce yourself as a Nigerian outside Nigeria.
You have to change.
What is the problem? Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs.
So, can we take one more final word, please? Okay, one. Okay.
Yes, now. I beg. You have to be. You have to be fair to that man. Beg.
Okay, so we'll take this. Then we'll take a comment. We'll take some comments from our virtual participants. We have a few.
Let me understand.
Please.
You want to sit down. Alistair, thank you very much. Thank you, my sister.
Please, in 1 minute.
I want to dwell a little bit on corruption. All those issues and problems listed, for me, they are corruption. They are because the country is a deep neck in corruption. I came in from Akwa Ibom to Abuja yesterday. I was telling her last night, and I came by land. Do you know that from Akwa Ibom up to Abuja, there are several checking points? Now, for every checking point, the driver must tip the policeman. And it bothered me when the driver had to be giving money to soldiers and even road safety. I want to ask him, I said, come, do you now give money to road safety and soldiers? I said, if you don't, you will leave. That's as bad as it is. Corruption. We are talking about corruption in high places. But right there on the road, and to make matters worse, young boys are out there watching what these soldiers, these policemen, in fact, for road safety, you don't give them directly. You give to some of those boys selling on the road. They give them to settle the road safety. It's already institutionalized. It's so endemic. And it has become part of our national life. Less is our problem. And for as long as this thing exists, it will continue to cause series of all these problems. Talk about management of the economy, electricity, unemployment. If you check very well, some of them are still endemic because of corruption, nothing more. And unless we work on this one from the foundation, we'll still have more problems.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So I think this is it has various dimensions to that. It's both a corruption issue and a security issue also, and a security issue, because when you have to bribe your security personnel, then you are actually in trouble. So I guess this is part of the conversations that we'll keep having. From the Afrobarometer R10, we have issues around security also. So we'll have this conversation at some point, and we are hopeful that we'll get the security bosses, if they would come, and the stakeholders to have this conversation. Dr. Kabir Adamu was supposed to be here today. Unfortunately, he couldn't be. He sent a message in. So these are the kind of conversations we're going to be having moving forward. Can we have the last? So I think there's a comment from our virtual participants. Can we read it out, Mame?
Yes, so we have a comment from Amy Onyechi, and she says, in my opinion, fuel subsidy was supposed to have benefits, particularly to improve the economy. However, in reality, almost 2 years into the current administration, the subsidy has been corrupted and has created an environment where the fundamental right to quality standard of living for Nigerians has been jeopardized. Some recommendations to help mitigate this issue. 1, implement social safety net programs. And this is to provide financial assistance to the vulnerable in the population, such as the poor, elderly, and disabled, to help them cope with the increased cost of living. 2, support small businesses. And this is to offer loans and grants to small businesses to help them manage the increased cost of operations due to higher fuel prices. And 3, invest in public transportation. And she believes this will improve and expand public transportation systems to provide affordable alternatives to private vehicle use, thereby reducing the overall impact of higher fuel costs.
Thank you very much. I think our two panelists have spoken to those to some extent, and the conversation goes on, and we'll keep talking about it as we go on. I would like the very last words from our panelists today, very briefly. They've spoken extensively, but let's have the very last word. I mean, we're looking at the state of economy, we're looking at living condition, we're looking at, you know, horses, right? We have to reverse that by remembering that the power belongs to us and also using that power. So I'd like to end on that positive note, that we have the power and we can continue to use that power. Thank you very much for that, Shadi. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll be as brief as possible. But I'm here with you, my brother. Please, what's the name again? Okay. Rings a bell. Now, I'll close by telling you that, which I hope you agree with me, because you sounded the notes of corruption and gave a universalist, a universalist label to corruption as being responsible for much of what we have, the dysfunction that we have in government. However, have you considered that the fight against corruption has become an enterprise in corruption itself? No, so corruption is a buzzword. So because you were passionately asking for us to discuss corruption. I'll end on the note of solution, because my sister from NAPTIP said, how much solution are we talking about? In all of this talk, I've tried to give alternative views and alternative solutions to these situations. There was a time when you approach a government office for service, you must bribe, and it's still the same. A smart governor in Lagos at that time said, why don't we incorporate these bribes into part of the money we collect and find a way to make the services so transparent and easy to deliver? Are you getting me? Oftentimes, when you make processes difficult, you create room for corruption. So when you make processes easier and more transparent, I know you like that one, and very easy. For example, you need to pay your ground rent in ages. You could have just gone into Remitter, put your plot number, right? Put your plot number, and then you pay. And then it's recorded automatically, and then you print a receipt. You paid your ground rent, right? Well, let me tell you the situation. Yes, the situation is that
First, you go and look for the original copy of the RFO. After you see the RFO, you will look for the original copy of the CFO. Then you come to ages, you must come by 8 a.m. to pick number. Yeah. After you pick number, you will enter a queue, and then you will wait. Then they will call you, then one officer will scrutinize the RFO whether it's correct. Another officer will issue you a bill. Then you will now go to the bank or something. Look, you just created lines for bribery. So the day I took an original CFO, there is one guy, we know you are a TV man, I call. We already collected, no, wait, we already collected tally now. You don't need to, your tally, you collect tally now, you'll be 86. Yeah? But this is number 8. You know, so look, what are you talking about? Am I going to tell you that I'm a saint that I did not give that boy money for giving me number 8? Are you getting me? Yeah. That's why I beg you to stay. Because even if you were the one, because I see I dressed in suit like that, the guy is getting me. He said, "You are Nigerian." He said, "Look, you'll be 86, so you know this is you will stay here, and network will fail if you come back." And then you move on to the guy will say, "Oh," the guy will not say, "Okay, you are number 8." And then you go to the gate where they were, and they say, "But we don't call number 8 tax now." He said, "But for us to call it again, you know what to do now." So you see, I asked it away so that we'll come back because we called that we should discuss corruption. I'm looking forward to a situation where we come to terms with ourselves and truthfully acknowledge. Oftentimes when I'm giving 1 minute, I don't know how I speed over, like because the issues keep extending. Where we acknowledge that, so this is who we are, and this is what we want to be. And this is how we can get there. It takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of sincerity. That's why we had things like 2014 National Conference and all that, so that we can decide on these things. Not the United Nations coming to tell us, or the Americans, or the British coming to tell us that this is what we have done, so you must do it that way. And for you to do it, we have brought funds for you. Well, we are doing it like this. Now they call the government official, write this policy, or they call the Senate people, and I mean, nationals, they give them money, write it this way, do this way. It is strange to us. It's not our way. There is a way we can do it. Who says we don't know the good life? Are you saying prior to when we had, I mean, a number of us that had studies in pre-colonial, way pre-colonial governments operated, are you saying that the king didn't have an interest or we couldn't run societies in Africa before? So I agree with you that it should be a serious issue for discussion, but it should be done with most sincerity. Let me tell you, most anti-corruption conferences are done with corrupt intentions. They are getting our own share in the name of saving the things of anti-corruption. Do and also, we not make progress. So until now we're getting old, we are knowing that we'll certainly go on to the other side. And we ask ourselves, is this the way we want? Sometimes a number of us are imprisoned by our conscience that, you know, we have to just do something. And until these persons come to that sincere point that we are really bad people. And that's why the Americans made progress. They acknowledge that there were a lot of bad guys around. So let's create a republic that is higher than us, that creates law, that can, so that we can look up to it and then become better. We need to come to that sense of sincerity and say, look, this is who we are. We will inherently remain bad, but this is where we want to go. We will do this. And if we sincerely pursue it, then we can have a national rebirth. We're not there yet. Because looking at this room, the people who have the power to take such decisions are not here. And the people who have that such power, somehow, somebody told me that there's a demon that goes on when it enters any person who enters government. That he forgets every good thing that he talked about before. In that case, let us also not try and be in government. We'll go there and see what we can do. And see what I will do.
Thank you all very much. Thank you all very much. We hope that at some point we can find the demons. I want to say a very big thank you for everyone for staying this long. We honestly didn't know we'll stay this long. Thank you for taking out time from your very busy schedules to be here today. It has been a public presentation of the findings of the Afrobarometer R10 survey on democracy and the economic direction of Nigeria, fuel subsidy, and the living condition of Nigerians. And a lot has been said today. In all of this, we are hoping that in our own small circles, that we do the best that we can. to push this country forward. It is ours, and one way or the other, we have to be accountable to what happens in our space. Thank you all very much. I want to say thank you to the Afrobarometer representative, Mame, that came all the way from Ghana for this event. I also want to thank our discussants today. We have Barrister Frank Tete. He's the Executive Director of Citizens Advocacy for Social and Economic Rights, CASA. Barrister Tete, thank you for always supporting us. And we want to thank Ayla Mashadi, he's the Program Officer, Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, Sarah. Thank you so much for coming today. And please take our regards back to the Executive Director. All right, I want to thank every single person that's represented here, and also the media. Thank you. It has been a small session, but it has been a very interesting session also. And like we said earlier, this is just the beginning of the dissemination for round 10. We are still going to have to call upon you at some point because there's so much to be talked about. And we hope that when we do, that you will be available. To everyone who has contributed to this, thank you very much. This is the point where I'll call on the Head of Social Research, Raphael, will be able to do the closing remark on behalf of the CEO, NOI Post, Dr. Chike Wango, who is unavoidably absent.
Okay, so thank you very much. I would like to thank most especially Barrister. Thank you so much, and my sister who also participated in the process. And thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate, in some way I was starting very late, but we need to discuss this more in depth. I want to appreciate you very much. And like Nelly mentioned earlier,